പ്രാർത്ഥിക്കാം. പിതാവിനും പുത്രനും പരിശുദ്ധനും സ്തുതി ആദ്യം എന്നേക്കും തന്നെ. ആമേൻ. മഹാപരിശുദ്ധനും നീതിമാനുമായ ഞങ്ങളുടെ സ്വർഗസ്ഥ പിതാവാം ദൈവമേ, ഓഗസ്റ്റ് മാസത്തിൻ്റെ 6-ാമത്തെ ദിവസം ഞങ്ങൾക്കിതുപോലെ വീണ്ടും ഈ തേഷ്ടയിൽ കൂടുവാനും ദൈവം ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഉപകാരങ്ങൾ ഒരു പ്രാവശ്യം കൂടെ ഓർക്കുവാനും പുതിയ കാര്യങ്ങളെ ഡോക്ടർ ജോൺ ഉമ്മനിൽ നിന്ന് കേൾക്കുവാനും ദൈവം അദ്ദേഹത്തെയും കുടുംബത്തെയും വേറൊരു ദേശത്ത് നടത്തിയ വിധങ്ങളും അതുമൂലം ആയിരങ്ങൾ രക്ഷയിലേക്ക് വന്നതും അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവരുടെ ജീവിതം വ്യത്യാസപ്പെട്ടതും ഒക്കെ കേൾക്കുവാനാണ് ഞങ്ങൾ വന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇത് ഞങ്ങളുടെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ ഷുഡ് നോട്ട് ബി ആൻ അനദർ റിക്വസ്റ്റ്. ഞങ്ങളുടെ ജീവിതത്തിൽ അത് ഞങ്ങൾ ഹൃദയത്തോട് ചേർത്ത് വയ്ക്കുന്ന പല കാര്യങ്ങളും കേൾക്കുവാൻ എന്ന് ഞങ്ങളെ സഹായിക്കണമേ. വന്നു ചേർന്ന എല്ലാവർക്കുമായി നന്ദി. വരുന്നവരെ ഞങ്ങൾ ഓർക്കുന്നു. ഈ സമയത്ത് 1 മിനിറ്റ് ഞങ്ങളുടെ ബ്രദേഴ്സ് ആൻഡ് സിസ്റ്റേഴ്സ് വയനാട്ടിൽ ഞങ്ങൾ ഓർക്കുന്നു. ഒരാഴ്ചയാകുന്നു. എല്ലാം നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടവർ, ആരുമില്ലാത്തവരെ ഒക്കെ ഞങ്ങളുടെ മുൻപിൽ കാണുന്നു. അതിനുവേണ്ടി ഇറങ്ങിത്തിരിച്ചിരിക്കുന്ന ഗവൺമെൻറ്റും മറ്റുള്ള എല്ലാവരും ചെയ്യുന്ന എല്ലാ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങളെയും ദൈവം പ്രാവശ്യം കൂടെ മാനിച്ച് അവരെ അനുഗ്രഹിച്ച് വീണ്ടും അവരെ റീസെറ്റിൽ ചെയ്യുവാൻ കർത്താവെ സഹായിക്കണമേ. ഇന്നത്തെ ദിവസത്തിൻ്റെ ശിഷ്ടമുള്ള മണിക്കൂറുകൾ തിരുസന്നിധി ഏൽപ്പിക്കട്ടെ. പ്രാർത്ഥനയോടനായി നന്ദി. യേശു ക്രിസ്തുവിൻ്റെ വിലയേറിയ നാമത്തിൽ തന്നെ. ആമേൻ. പ്ലീസ് ബി സീറ്റഡ്.
Good morning, friends. I want to welcome all of you to this quest again, especially the medical students, the interns who are with us. I'm sure we're going to have a good time the next 30-40 minutes as we listen to Dr. Johnny Oommen. Just a word of introduction about Dr. Johnny. I was a first-year medical student. We were at Christian Medical College, Vellore. We had our community orientation program called the COP, which many of the students here also have experienced, right? We were in a village in Keelarasampet, and Dr. Johnny was a postgraduate student in community medicine. And he and his good friend, Dr. Arvind Kasturi, used to do role plays to show us various aspects of how to be with the community, how to understand their views. And I don't remember all the details, but I know that we were all awestruck and inspired by their lives and their role modeling. But Dr. Johnny didn't stop after his PG in community medicine or his undergraduate at CMC. He chose to respond to the needs of people in Odisha, especially the rural and tribal parts of Odisha, and he spent his entire career in the Bissamcuttack in Rayagada hills of Odisha. Dr. Johnny has been an inspiration in many fields, particularly in the area of malaria eradication. We knew malaria treatment, but I don't think many of us in our books had learned much about medicated mosquito nets in those days. Now I think you read about medicated mosquito nets and how that helps in reducing the mortality and morbidity due to malaria. And he was he was an advocate or an evangelist for mosquito nets and how that can be done, and also influence the government officials in a great way. So his work led to ripple effect across the country. Moreover, he has also been involved in training and teaching many young people and the government officials in the field of community health, various aspects. He is also the member of the ICMR technical task forces in various parts of Odisha and in the country. Of late, he has been, for the last 7 years, he's been the vice chairman of the Christian Medical College Vellore Council, which is a very responsible position, which actually the council of CMC is what governs the institution. In a sense, they're responsible. And so he's been giving leadership to the Christian Medical College Vellore in a different way. His wife, Mrs. Mercy John, is a nurse, and she's trained at Vellore, her BSc and MSc there. And after that has been the principal of the community Christian Hospital Bissamcuttack, has also been the nurse leader in CMAI in many roles. And both of them as a couple have inspired thousands and thousands of students and young doctors and nurses across the country. They have a son, Ashish John Oommen, is that correct? Yeah, Josh, okay, Ashish Oommen John. And I met him as a young boy in Hebron School in Ooty once. And now he's married. He and his wife Ishani are educationists, and they'll serve at the Asian Christian Academy. It's a school there they have near Hosur. So we want to welcome Johnny and Mercy, and as a family, welcome Dr. Luke and Dr. Elizabeth, and their families have visited Bissamcuttack recently, and some of us have got close to him over the past many years. And I'm sure all of you will enjoy the time together. We welcome you, Johnny. Shall we put our hands together as we welcome?
Is that okay? Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here, having us here. Mercy and I, our home is in Kaviyur, which is just 6 kilometers away. But prior to last month, I had not really been inside this hospital by and large. And it's been such a pleasure to get to know this institution, Believers Church Medical College and Hospital, after having heard so much about it, and finally getting a chance to visit and to interact. My friends are quite surprised that you are inviting me back to speak, because normally once people have heard me, they don't want to hear me again. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I hope this time will be useful. Now, I was wondering what we should do together. A few years ago, maybe three years ago, one of the batches of medical students from Vellore, the batch of 2006, now finished PG, working in different parts of the world, asked me to speak to them online. They said, we've seen the world and we're quite cynical about it. How come you still smile? What are the lessons of life you have learned? Now, I was then the medical student at Cherian Hospital, Bissamcuttack, and we were going crazy with COVID and everything else. So there was very little time to think, but I just put down ideas and did a set of life lessons for them. And since then, I've landed up doing this in so many places because people kept asking. So I'm going to share with you some thoughts that come out of our journey. I'll first try and use my disclaimer. I hope you can't read the Tamil because then there's no fun in it. But I'm grateful to the English teacher of the guy who painted this board for the poor spelling they taught them. But I think it is a good one for our country. Dangerous gurus ahead. Go slow. So that's my disclaimer. Don't believe anything I say. Check it out for yourselves. Find yourselves. And feel free to disagree. What I'm going to do is take a quick picture summary of life over the last 62 years since I was born in Birmingham. And then try and extract some of the things that have worked for us, some of the things that have been good for us, and I hope it will work for you as well. So the first 30 years of my life, we were around Vellore because my father was the chaplain there. And then the last 30 plus years, we've been in Bissamcuttack in Odisha, and now we don't know where we're going, but we're sitting in Kaviyur waiting on God right now. So quick picture summary. 1964, my father, a priest of the Church of South India, Reverend A.C. Oommen, and my mother, Rebecca Oommen. They arrived in Vellore with, at that time, there were 4 of us. One more sister joined us later. And this is 1964. They're unusual people. Both were very unusual people. My mother actually started as a sister in the Bethel Ashram, just next door to you. And my father was at the Manganam Ashram until a friend of theirs suggested they'd be just right for each other. My father quit college and theology studies in Sarampur to follow Gandhiji, bury bodies during partition. They were missionaries in Uganda. They did all sorts of crazy things, which explain some of the madness that you will see in the following slides. I joined medical college in Vellore in 1980, the MBBS batch. One of my classmates works here. That is Shaji P. Koshi of your Ophthalm department. Yeah, we are classmates. So yes, and I'm somewhere in the crowd somewhere there. Most of what I remember of college was extracurricular. I'm afraid I was not a very good student. I'm not recommending this to anybody, but I am a passionate member of the back row class. The people in the back row can sleep with their eyes open. They can pass comments that everybody but the teacher can hear. It's an art form. So most of what I remember is actually extracurricular. Mercy and I got married in 1991. To cut a long story short, I'm the long story and she's the short story. We got married in 91, and she was doing her MSc in nursing and I was doing my MD in community health. And we went back to Bissamcuttack. I say went back because I had actually worked there for a year between 87 and 88. Vellore has this lovely bond system, so I got sent there. I got myself sent there for a year, and that kind of changed direction. So we returned to Bissamcuttack, Odisha. Odisha used to be spelt like that at that time, in July 1993, to the Christian hospital there. Today, if you look at that hospital, it's grown a lot. We do not have a vision mission statement. Somehow we never got the time to do it. It's just been too busy. So we say, what is our calling? And our calling is to share the pain of people. Our calling is to respond and serve with love. Our calling is to be the change we want to see. So that's as much as we've managed to get together. Some sort of a directional statement, and that's what we're like. It's a 200-bedded hospital. The average bed occupancy was about 105%. There are days on which you have 250, 260 patients admitted. 6,000 surgeries a year, which you divide by 365, comes to around 17 a day, and about 10, 12 deliveries a day. So it's busy, very, very busy, along with the College of Nursing, an ICSE school, an Adivasi school, and our community work in 54 villages. So try and imagine this, a busy hospital bursting at the seams, located in one of the most beautiful parts of the country, the southern South Odisha tribal hills. Our block is 63% Adivasi. Our district is 55% Adivasi. So we're not talking about, like in Kerala, a few tribal people sitting in Attapadi. We're talking about the majority community, and yet the tail wags the dog doesn't wag the tail. So power is always with a few. And into this place, we had the joy and privilege of working. But let me take us back to the story of our lives, which is where we want to move from. Mercy's work was in nursing education. When we joined, it was an A&M school, and she helped to upgrade that to a GNM school in 96 and a BSc program in 2018. And we are very clear about what we do. We were taking girls only from Odisha, for Odisha. We're very clear. And about 90% of the girls we have trained have always been from the K plus districts. That means the weakest districts of Odisha. We were targeted in the way we did nursing education because we needed to change the health of Odisha, and it has stayed that way. My own work was in community health. I really believe with a passion in community health. I believe that it's a fascinating subject, not to study. It's a pain till you pass it. But once you pass the exam, you really understand the subject. Till then, park can be a bit of a problem. But I just love the subject. So for my early years, I was walking village by village. There were no roads then, by and large. And so we were working with Adivasi villages who had asked us to work with them, sitting with people, working things through, finding answers. We used community dreaming sessions to get the community to tell us the direction they wanted us to go in. Coming from the south, I had a very different idea of what they should be, but who on earth am I to tell them what they should be and do? I have no right. And therefore, listening to people through dreaming sessions pushed us in different directions. Now, we put a notebook in every village and asked people to record births, deaths, and pregnancies. And in no time, we realized that most of our deaths were due to malaria. 1/3 of the deaths in the hospital, 1/3 of the deaths in the community was malaria. If you just tested under 5 children during season, something like 59% of all under 5 children were positive for malaria, with or without fever. 92% were afebrile. Therefore, all that they taught us in college about test for malaria if they had fever, you'd pick up about 8%. And we realized, for example, that most of the malnutrition there was secondary to chronic and recurrent malaria. We call that mal. We coined the word malaria-induced malnutrition. We worked around that. We came out with strategies for that. But the key was to understand the malaria, right? Our vector, we know about Anopheles, but there are 425 species of Anopheles. The specific species that is predominantly responsible for malaria in our area is Anopheles fluviatilis. As the name suggests, it breeds in flowing water, not in stagnant water, gently flowing streams. It's a peri-midnight biter, bites between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. max. Our predominant parasite was Plasmodium falciparum, which, about 90%. And therefore, the strategy had to change. The predominant community is a tribal community which lives outside their houses. So you put that together, and you had to have a different strategy. The NVBDCP, or NMEP as it was called then, just doesn't work. So we moved working with people to what we call the People's Movement Against Malaria. In 96, we started using medicated nets that was in use in Africa at that point in time. I'm afraid the government of India caught on to the idea only by 2010, which is an absolute tragedy because we lost a lot of lives unnecessarily just because ICMR and NVBDCP were not talking to each other. But this is part of the history of malaria in our country. And we had a radical drop within 1 year. The people from WHO came running to us to ask, what on earth did you do? This also meant that we had more space in our heads, and we got into education, because the community's next dream was that one day our people will be educated. 16 villages formed an association, forced us to start a school that we call the Mitra Residential School, Kachapaju. Kui medium, Adivasi school. Residential it had to be because the forest was so too far apart, and only children from those 16 villages study in that school, grade 1 to 5. At year 20, we celebrated. I use this picture to kind of summarize what we do. In my understanding, we dance the dance of life for the people and with the people whom we serve, under the canopy of 3 mango trees that signifies the divine. To me, that kind of sums up our lives and what we're trying to do. When your hair grays, they put you into administration, and so I landed up having to build buildings. We were designing stuff and working on infrastructure, and then I retired in 2022, after which my primary job has been to teach people how to whistle. It's a very important task. And to grow old with your friends. This is the tribal leader in the previous picture. This gentleman, Judhishri Saraka, and now we have started looking like each other. I want to take you through some things that really matter to us. We have one son, born in 1994 in Bissamcuttack, grew up there. He's totally Odia. Now, he got married in 2022, it's 26th of February, in our chapel. Our Bahu is from Assam, from Tinsukia, Ishani, and they were both married in our hospital chapel. It was a homemade wedding. That's the families, and after the wedding, we had a dinner outside our house. The next day, the community had invited us for a reception, which they said the boy is ours as much as he is yours. And he has grown up with us, and therefore, you do what you want in your church, but please bring him the next day because we have our own party to have together. Of course, we paid for the raw materials, but this was the party. This is a village called Kachapaju, and the community was there, and we danced together. That's the couple with their heads covered, getting their feet washed. This is the beauty of India, the real India. And so we danced together, up and down the street, until the couple was brought to the mango trees near the school, which I said signify the divine. They were seated under the mango trees. And then we had lunch. 4,000 people. We provided the raw materials, the community cooked. And they were so organized because now we have children who are engineers and all who've studied in the school. And so they had flow charts and serving counters, and it was amazing. But what I want to tell you about is what happened 3 days later. At the wedding, people bring gifts. So we got 3 goats, we got 600 kilos of rice, and about 59,000 rupees in small notes. And 3 days or 4 days later, the community asked us to come to the village, because they said we have to hand over the accounts of all the gifts which were received. We received it on your behalf. And so we were in Kachapaju village in the evening, just the family, and they asked each of us to say something. Now, when our son Ashu was asked to speak, he said something which I want to share with you. He said, my friends came for my wedding. He was speaking Odia. He said, my friends came for my wedding. They came from Delhi, they came from Chennai, they came from Trivandrum, they came from Guwahati. They're all asking me one question. Why are these people doing this for your wedding? And he said, I had only one word to answer. In Odia, he said, Nijjoro. Nijjoro means sondam. Sondam. And I look back over the years of being a medical student, the years of growing up, and I realized, what more can you ask for? When a people say, you belong to us, what more can you ask for? So we've been blessed far more than what we deserve. This is when we celebrated 25 years as a school. 3,500 people got together to say thank you. And we just, in June, May 31st, Mercy retired. And on June 16th, it was time for us to leave Bissamcuttack.
Bye, sir. Bye. Safe journey, sir.
and now we live happily ever after. Now, what I'm trying to say is, people tell you about going to mission, sacrifice your life. It's a load of bakwas. You receive much more than you've given. We have been so privileged. We gave a little, we received a lot. Now, I want to take from this journey some thoughts and lessons we've learned, not as a prescription. Who am I? I have no right to tell you what you should think or believe, but things that have worked for us, things that have made a difference to us. There are 15 lessons that I want to share here. Obviously, there isn't time to go into detail, but I'll just throw them out and ask you to think about these. These are the things we keep saying to ourselves to stay sane and human. We share them in the hope that they'll be useful to you as well. Lesson number 1. We have learned that we do not belong to ourselves. All that we are, all that we have, are an undeserved gift given in trust to be used for others. If you want a copy of this on a Word document, I can give it to you later. If it is useful to anybody, I'll pass it on. But just try and absorb it. This is something I learned when I was 17, studying in SB College in Cherian. Learned it from a beggar on a bus in Mavelikera, who taught us not to be proud of what we have. We claim, this is me, this is mine, my degree, I earned it, I worked so hard. What is it? If you were born in a different family, the story would have been totally different. The greatest choices the greatest advantages we have, we didn't choose, we didn't earn. They came. Chance if you want, God if you want. We do not belong to ourselves. All that we are and all that we have are an undeserved gift, given in trust to us, not for us, to be used for others who did not get the opportunities we got. That one learning releases us, frees us to be able to be used for a cause that is bigger than us. So that's lesson number 1 I want to share with you. You can think about it, we can play with it. Lesson number 2 we learned. We learned that God is real, that God is good, and that God is faithful. When I was younger, as a student, I wondered whether he was a cleverly designed psychotherapy job. We believed, but there are times when you have your doubts whether he really exists or not. But we've been there. We've been off the cliff. We've jumped off the cliff and found his hands underneath. There are days I've gone to the community when I did not know whether I'd come back alive. There were the Maowadi days, tough days. But we have tasted of him, and he's real. It's not chance. The p-value is less than 0.001. You can trust. Don't jump off a cliff physically, I'm telling you. Lesson number 3. We have found that it helps to know what we want out of life. Some clarity on the endpoints. I recommend strongly that you search oneself and put down your actual goals. They might surprise you when you put them down in writing. Where do you want to reach? What is the endpoint you're looking for? It may change over time, but it helps to actually put this. At the end of it, what do you want anyway? My dad used to talk about a little boy who was playing football. He was very good. The only problem, he never passed the ball. So he'd pick up the ball at one place and he'd tackle this way, that way, cut through, reach the other end. He's got his eye on the goal and he goes all the way there. When he reaches there, he finds somebody shifted the goalpost. The goalpost is no longer where he thought it was. At the end of life, when you've struggled and fought and shoved and pushed and cut the other fellow's neck and got there in the rat race, will it be worth it? It's useful to periodically put down your goals. Lesson number 4. We have found that there is no place where we cannot be unhappy. There's no place where we cannot be happy. These are choices we make. You see people who have everything, all the boxes ticked, and yet can't sleep at night. And then you see people who have so little and yet are able to sing within the prisons that society has locked them into. So to allow circumstances and bystanders to determine our peace of mind is irrational and self-destroying. I know it's pontification. I know there are circumstances. I'm not trying to justify any circumstances anybody lives in. But we found as a family that we had to choose to be happy. If you choose to complain, there's enough and more to complain about. Lesson number 5. We have found that cynicism and bitterness are like cancers of the soul. We've been there. We've gone through that phase when everything was, nobody is good. Lord Buddha said something very interesting. He said to hold on to resentment and grudges is like you are drinking poison and you're waiting for the other fellow to die. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. We drink the poison, we die. Cynicism is a cancer of the soul. So how do you handle it? And we've had this times when people go against you. People stab you in the back. People trouble you. We learnt that the only way we could handle it, I can't say if it works for you, but the only way we could handle it is that whoever we feel has hurt us, whoever I cannot stand, and there will be people like that. Ulta also. Whoever thinks that we have hurt them, or whoever can't stand us, we have to pray for them every day by name. Not saying, bash their teeth and smash their legs like in the Psalms. No. You pray, God bless them. God bless their families. Now, I don't know if their situation improves, but mine does. So learning to handle hurt, cynicism, bitterness is critical for our own souls. It releases us. Lesson number 6. We have learnt that I'm not the center of the universe. The sun does not rise from my umbilicus. Many of us actually think that. Everybody to the right of me is right wing. Everybody to the left of me is left wing. If you're taller than me, you're tall. If you're shorter than me, you're short. If you have more than me, you're rich. If you have less than me, you're poor. I am the center of the universe. The story is not about us. The world was here before we arrived. It'll still be here after we've gone. Chill. Slow down. Lesson number 7. Jesus said, love your neighbor. I'm extremely grateful to him for not saying, like your neighbor. That would be very, very difficult. There will always be people you can't stand. There will always be people we don't like. But we are called to love even those who we don't like. That's an imperative. It was not a gentle suggestion. It was a command. Love. Then what is love? To me, the operational definition of love is to say, your happiness is more important to me than my happiness. Your fulfillment is more important to me than my fulfillment. The classic example is the typical Indian mother. That ass of a husband comes home drunk and troubles her. The children are ungrateful brats who don't appreciate what she has done for them, and still she loves them. That's the closest to agape I've ever seen. Love your neighbor. It's a choice we make, a conscious decision we take. That even if I can't stand the sight of the guy, I will do my best to ensure his happiness over mine. Lesson number 8. Why do we do the good we do? What are we expecting in return? In 93, when we were leaving home, spent a week with my parents in Kavur, my father said this to us. He said, okay, you're going to go out there and serve the poor tribal people of Odisha. Great. What do you think? They will touch your feet and say, thank you, Saab. Doesn't work like that. The person for whom you do the most will stab you in the back. That's the rule. It happened to Gandhiji. It happened to Jesus. Why shouldn't it happen to you? So when that happens, will you say, after all I did for them, see what they did to me? Then don't go. Stay here. Because that's the deal. And that was the best advice we ever got. So the question I'm raising is, we do good, but why do we do good? When you get up, when there's a call from the casualty, and even if others delay, you go stat. Even if a patient is irritable, you be nice to them. Why do you do it? What are you hoping to get? It's a good question to ask ourselves. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's something really brilliant called Nishkama Karma. To do good without expecting any return. No desire, no motive. You know, when my father died at the age of 94, on his table was the Bible, the New Testament in Greek, which he used to read the original, the Bhagavad Gita, and Satyagraha by Gandhiji. And he was cross-reading the four. And we'd discuss it. At the age of 94, he was sharper than I am now. If you ask me, the best example I have seen of Nishkama Karma is Jesus on the cross. They spit on him, they slap him, they nail him. And he says, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Why do we do the good we do? And we look to the mango tree, which gives shade and mangoes to it. Has no choice on who will eat its mangoes, on who will sleep in its shade. Nature teaches us to do good and not ask for anything in return. Lesson number 9, we need to stop taking ourselves too seriously. My father would say, we need to sacrifice our sense of sacrifice. If you think you're sacrificing, then you've lost it already. We do what we do because we enjoy what we do. It's an investment, not a sacrifice. So we need to stop glorifying ourselves and our great contribution to the world. Smile. Enjoy the ride. Lesson number 10, this is something we always used to say to our colleagues and as a team in community health. I'm not standing for elections. I don't have to impress everyone or keep everybody happy. Life will go on. The sun will rise tomorrow also. It's okay. Chalega. Lesson number 11. There is the being and the doing. It took me a long time to figure this out. When you're younger, you think doing is more important. As you grow older, you realize being is more important. My doing needs to be a natural outflow of my being. Like flowers on a plant, fruits on a tree. By virtue of it being a plant, flowers will come. Ape, it's coming. As against flowers in a vase. In a vase, you can have pink, blue, green, yellow, all sorts of flowers. But tomorrow morning, they dry. So doing without being dries up quickly. It burns out in a while. But learning to be, even in the midst of hectic doing, casualty, OPD, war, theater, learn to be is an art form and a survival requirement. Lesson number 12. Our attitude to money is both a determinant and an indicator of our spirituality. Think it through very carefully. Our attitude to money is going to determine how spiritual we are. I don't mean religious. There's a huge... Religion is on the outside. Spirituality is inside. Religion divides. Spirituality unites. Our attitude to money will determine our spirituality. And if you watch somebody's attitude to money, it's an indicator of the temperature of one's spirituality. We need to define our philosophy of money. Money is a tool. Neither good nor bad. Necessary. But once you're released from that, it enables you to use money without being owned by the money. Lesson number 13. This took us a long time to learn, and we learned it finally during the anti-Christian riots in 2008, Kandhamal riots. Our church was broken, and we were trying to understand why we do what we do, and we realized our calling is to share the pain of people and to respond in love. We are called to work with compassion. The word compassion actually means to suffer with. The professionalism in us sometimes prevents us. Our pursuit of objectivity, it's necessary, I don't deny it, sometimes blocks us from feeling the pain of our patients. But it is in that sharing the pain that we are transformed. Lesson number 14. Our work is our worship. Christian healthcare or the healing ministry is not just an occupation, a profession, or a fishing net. It's not just a method to a higher goal. It is holy in itself. It is sacramental. See, because whenever people are in pain, God is present. sharing their pain. When we touch someone in pain, we touch God. There's a story of Mother Teresa and one of her young nuns in Calcutta. Young nun had gone to the streets. She came back and said, "Mother, I need to speak to you." So Mother said, "Tell me, what happened?" She said, "I went out in the streets and I found an old man lying in a drain, full of ulcers, maggots, gasping, almost dead." So Mother asked, "What did you do?" She said, "We picked him up and we brought him back to the house, Nirmal Rite. And I was cleaning him and washing him and taking out the maggots, and he was just almost stopping to breathe. And while I was cleaning him up and gently, he died. Stopped breathing." So Mother asked the sister, "What did you feel?" She said, "Mother, I felt I was touching the body of Christ." When we touch people in pain, we touch God. He's already there. Never lose the awe of the practice of medicine and nursing. He's already there. And last, lesson number 15. God loves us. Nothing